What's up guys, Sio here with week 10 of the NES. This week we are up against Flooka, coach of the Hamilton Rai-Cats. Before I get into this battle, I didn't have a battle last week against JTN and the New England Rowlets. He ended up having to forfeit to me because we just ended up not being able to schedule a battle. I did have a team prepared, and if you guys are curious, I guess I can upload like some of the practice matches that I did against him, or at least against Super Nerd, against his team. But it seemed like it was going to be a good week. But anyway, this week we are up against Flooka again, and he brought a team that's fairly similar to what he brought last time. He brought the Braviary again. Luckily I prepared for Braviary more this time, and he actually made a couple of free agent moves. He dropped Cofagrigus and Nidoqueen for Reuniclus and Golurk, I believe. Reuniclus came this week, obviously, and Golurk didn't. Sock's scary. Raikou is fairly scary, I guess, depending on what set it is. If it's Calm Mind, I'll have to play around it pretty aggressively, but I can, I guess. And then he brought the Mega Aggron and Tapu Fini again. I brought a Choice Scarf Zoroark with Night Daze, Extra Sensory, and a little bit of extra coverage, I think. Lopunny has Sub, Power Up Punch, Return, and High Jump Kick. Skarmory is non-attacking, Stealth Rock, Spike, Whirlwind, and Roost. Sylveon is a Misty Seed set meant to basically switch into Tapu Fini and instantly get a +1 Spadef boost with Calm Mind, Baton Pass, Psy Shock, and Hyper Voice. Nidoking is Choice Scarf with coverage, basically. And Lantern is Electrium, Z, Thunder, Volt Switch, Scald, and Volt Switch, Scald, Thunder, and Heal Well, I believe. So last time I led Bluff. Also, sorry, this commentary is a little rough, but I have to do this in one take, so sorry. I'm gonna lead regular Skarmory this week. The last time I battled him, I bluffed that I led Skarmory as he led Mega Aggron, and then I was able to basically just get a clean like 80% off with Fightinium Z Focus Blast from Zoroark. So this time I'm going to expect him to not really expect that, and just kind of play a little bit standard, because Skarmory actually matches up pretty well against most of his team as a lead. The only thing it doesn't really match up that well against is Raikou, and if he leads Raikou, I can just hard switch into either Nidoking or Lantern. Lantern's Volt Absorb to also be able to block Volt switches. It also allows me to play a little bit more recklessly with Nidoking if I want to. So yeah, I'm going to lead Skarmory as he ends up actually leading Raikou. Which kind of sucks, I guess, but like I said, I have a pretty designated switch for this. Unless it's Choice Specs and goes for Extra Sensory here, it's not going to do enough damage to Nidoking to really be able to do a lot, so I'm just going to go hard Nidoking. This damage right here suggests that it could potentially be Scarf, but it's definitely not like boosting. But that damage with a crit suggests that he's probably Assault Vest, actually, because that's about how much it should have been doing anyway. But with a crit, it should have basically counteracted the Assault Vest. It still would have been a 2-hit KO anyway, I think, or if not, it would have been pretty close to a 2-hit KO. But it's not really a big deal. I can stay in and go for another Earth Power here, even though the switch to Braviary is pretty obvious. I have my own switch in Skarmory, so I'll just go Skarmory. He makes the right play and just goes for a hard U-turn and goes into Raikou, but because I have leftovers, I get back up to Sturdy here, and it's basically just turn 1 all over again. I could go into Nidoking, but I don't want him to predict that and go for an Extra Sensory here. So I'm going to make my other switch here and go into Lantern. It ends up being the right play because he goes for a Volt Switch and I just block it hard. And I'll go for a Volt Switch of my own because he doesn't have a Volt Switch block. I get pretty lucky and get a crit there. There are a couple of crits this game. And here I'm just going to go for an Earth Power. Spadef, it only does about 50%, and Nidoking ends up dropping very quickly. And I'm actually personally okay with that, I guess. It is a little weird because Nidoking's like one of my main wall breakers this game, but it was basically there to break Mega Aggron, and it got a clean 50% off, and this being Spadef confirms that I should be able to kill with a Power Up Punch, or at least a High Jump Kick from here. His High Jump Kick switch-ins are a little limited at this point. So I'm just going to go Skarmory, despite that, because I just want to get spikes up. I don't want his Sock to be sturdy and then not be able to Oko it with Zoroark's extra sensory. That's right. So I would need to get spikes up at least. I would also like to get rocks up, but rocks are kind of secondary because they only really hit Braviary for any kind of real damage. So just gonna go for spikes, and then again I'm gonna switch into Lantern, even though it's kind of predictable. I could have actually read this and gone hard Lopunny here, and I was considering it, but I just decided to play it safe in case he tried to predict me. I could have gone hard Lopunny though and saved 25% if I wanted to. I'm gonna go for a sub here on the off chance that he switches. If he is Scarfed, he shows that he's not there, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get my kill, I guess. This game's a little fast-paced, so I'm trying to keep up here, sorry. But I wanted to go for a sub there on the off chance that he switched hard into Reuniclus or Tapu Fini or something like that, because I would have been able to get either a power-up punch off or a free return off or a free head jump kick off, depending on what he went into. And I don't know, it would have worked out well, I guess, had he not been, or had he actually been Scarfed like I was afraid of. But I was pretty sure he was Assault Vest at this point. I just wanted to play it safe. So I'm not staying in, obviously. He makes the start play and just goes straight for a Defog. And then goes hard Tapu Fini as I just try to set up spikes again, because again, I can't let Sock come in without at least taking a little bit of damage first. And again, I have my complete counter to this. I'm expecting him to actually bring Calm Mind this week. So I needed a Calm Mind set up as my own, I guess. So I decided to go Sylveon this week with Misty Seeds. As you see, I instantly eat the Misty Seeds because of Misty Terrain. If you have Misty Terrain active when you switch in with Misty Seeds, you instantly get a Spadef boost. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter because Flooka prepared very well and goes for the Alolan Z Guardians of Alola, which instantly does 75%. 74%, I guess, because I EV'd my HP to be odd, I think. But either way, Spadef didn't really help me out too much there. I was kind of hoping to keep Sylveon around for a lot longer, and I unfortunately don't have Wish this week. I wanted to have Wish, but I realized Psyshock was a lot better if I had predicted this thing to be Calm Mind, because I could just hit it, but I could basically just set up alongside it and then 2-hit KO it. Well, it can't really do anything to me unless it had Nature's Madness, and unless it had Z Nature's Madness. So, bright side, it can't really kill me with anything here, so I can afford to Baton Pass the Spadef boost into something. The fact that he does 18% there when I'm at +1 still suggests that he's actually pretty offensive, even though he's Alolan Z Nature's Madness, which is kind of interesting. So I was right on predicting an offensive one, but kind of wrong, I guess, on what offensive move it would go for. So I decided to just pass it in a Dowsy here, because I'm just going to go for the Gigavolt Havoc at this point. Like I said, I have Electrium Z Thunder of my own. I EV'd this enough to be able to Oko most Tapu Finis, and it should still at least do damage to pretty much everything else that comes in. I expected him to actually sack Mega Aggro on here, but thankfully he stays in with Tapu Fini, and that just drops instantly. I've never seen a Tapu Fini drop that fast before, but I was pretty happy to see that, because that thing was obviously pretty scary. It removes a Defogger, but obviously Sock is a Defogger this week, and he just goes hard Sock here. And unfortunately he's Mold Breaker, so my insistence on keeping spikes up was kind of for naught, I guess. I need to be able to get this thing down to about 65 to 70% in order for extra sensory from Zoroark to be able to Oko. So I need to be able to basically sack something here, scare it out, let it come back in, and either have another layer of spikes set up and have it switch in twice, or get 2 layers of spikes up and have it switch in once. So basically I just kind of have to whittle this thing down a little bit more is kind of what I'm getting at. So I have to let Dowsy drop here. It would have been nice to keep him around for a little bit longer, but he honestly doesn't really do anything the rest of this battle. He was mostly there for Raikou and Tapu Fini, and obviously those were the first 2 things to drop, so whatever. I'm just going to go hard Skarmory here because, like I said, I do basically need to get hazards up. he's not going to be able to OHKO me with anything, so worst case scenario, I can restep. He surprisingly stays in close combats at -1 defense. Personally, I thought this was pretty risky because I very easily could have just Brave Birded him in the next dimension and he would have died. Luckily for him, I'm actually not attacking Skarmory at all this week, even though I brought plenty of offensive Skarmories before. So I just go for rocks because I want to punish Braviary for coming in and trying to defog here, as well as just getting a little bit of extra chip on Sock. Rock resist, or fighting resist rock, so it only does like 6% or something, but it's still a little bit of damage, I guess. And again, I need to basically get a clean switch into something, so unfortunately Sock immediately gets another kill as I'm forced to basically sack Sylveon. But again, Sylveon doesn't really do much at 7% without Wish, so I just decided to let it drop there. And now I'm going to go quote-unquote Skarmory. It's actually Zoroark, and if he's paying attention to my health, he knows that. I'm pretty sure he's paying enough attention to it, but I'm just going to go for the extra sensory anyway. First of all, just to show that I have it, and second of all, to kind of guarantee that if he wasn't paying attention, I got a cheeky kill there. But Skarmory actually gets a kill from Hazards, which is kind of cool, as Mega Aggron drops to it and he goes in Braviary. I don't really have a reason to actually not switch out into the real Skarmory here. I'm just going to roost back up to full, because obviously Sock is going to do a lot of damage here. And these next couple turns are basically just going to be me trying to get Hazards back up while also not dying. He only has 8 close combats, so I'm actually pretty okay with the situation of doing like 46 to 50%, because with leftovers, I'm, knock on wood, barring a crit, actually doing okay here. His Reuniclus switching in and taking damage from Hazards actually means that he's Regenerator Reuniclus, which is interesting. That's not nearly as common of a Reuniclus to run most of the time. So I figure that he's probably, I mean, obviously he's not Magic Guard, but he's probably gonna be some kind of slow offensive, potentially Trick Room team. And with how fast my team is compared to his, it's a little bit worrisome at this point. I'm afraid that he could potentially have Thunder as well. That's the only kind of electric coverage that Reuniclus gets, but it's possible for him to run it. And he shows leftovers there, by the way. But I just decided to go hard Zoroark anyway, because it resists everything else except for Focus Blast, but he's probably not going to go for Focus Blast against the Skarmory. Luckily he goes for Shadow Ball. If he would have for Psychic, obviously it would have done literally nothing. And here I am forced to make a play. I can either go for Night Days and do like a solid 80% to this thing, but do absolutely nothing to Sock, or I can go for Pursuit on it, trying to switch out so it at least has a little bit of extra chip damage, so the next time it switches in, I'll actually be able to kill it with the Night Days. Obviously, based on how cool the last play sounds, to be perfectly honest, I decided to go for the Pursuit here. Especially being Regenerator, I expected him to switch out. He doesn't, which is very surprising because he just goes for another Shadow Ball. I'm not sure if he was trying to lure in my Lopunny at that point, but I'm very, very surprised that he stayed in. Unfortunately, because I'm choice locked, I can't just go for a Night Days here. So I have to go for another Pursuit as he again stays in, and goes for a Flash Cannon, which really sucks. I'm obviously not going to be able to stay in because the next one's going to kill me, so I have to switch out here, even though I don't want to. Skarmory seemed like an okay switch here, just because it didn't really seem like he actually had anything besides Shadow Ball to hit me with, and I could pretty easily take 2 of those and just roost off. Trick Room is very annoying though, because now I'm kind of at very awkward speed tiers for him. So I'm just going to try to Whirlwind him out and see what I get here. I was actually hoping for Sock, and here I actually make a bit of a misplay because like, I remember how Trick Room works, but I kind of forget this interesting thing here. So my play here 100% is to just go for Whirlwind again, because I'm a Steel Flying type. The worst that he could do is close combat me and take me down 50%. And then I either get the switch into Reuniclus, where I could try to make a double if I want to, or just stay in and go for a Roost. Or he goes into Braviary, which just guarantees me the Roost anyway. he's at enough damage now that extrasensory actually kills, so I basically just need to get Zoroark in at the right time and to go for the extrasensory to be able to get the damage. But unfortunately, in my head, I forget that, like, for this turn, I forget that he's Choice Scarfed, which means that because he's Choice Scarfed under Trick Room, he's going to actually go slower than me this turn. So I end up going for a Roost here and kind of choking right here, because I Roost back up to full, but because I remove my Flying type by being a fast Roost, Close Combat becomes super effective and instantly drops me down to Sturdy, which means that the next Roost that I have will guaranteed kill, first of all, because I'm not at Sturdy. But even if I wasn't in Trick Room, I wouldn't be able to... basically, I'm kind of screwed at this point. If I would have Whirlwind out, I would have been able to Roost back up to full, potentially stall out Trick Room a little bit more. But now I'm basically in a position where I have to sack something and bluff, because the things that are faster than this on my... So I have a lot of fast things left, and he has a lot of slow things left. So being with 2 turns of Trick Room left after this, because spoilers, I have to sack Skarmory, means that I basically have to bluff here that Zoroark isn't Scarfed, because I have to bluff that Zoroark isn't Scarfed, meaning that I actually outspeed here and am able to go for the move that I want to go for. I again actually make a bit of a misplay here because I'm still trying to recover from the Skarmory thing. I should have honestly just gone for the Night Daze, but I went for Extrasensory instead. I'm not super happy about that one, because if I would have just gone for a Night Daze, it would have 2-hit KO'd. I could have... Well, I mean, I guess it wouldn't have really mattered, because I don't think Extrasensory would have 2-hit KO'd Braviary from this range. But my plan when I was thinking of it out loud is if I would have went for Night Daze on this turn, it would have 2-hit KO'd Reuniclus, Sock would have come in, I would have basically just been forced to sack it, or been forced to sack Lopunny. Then I switch back into Zoroark, who is Choice Scarfed, and then I go for Extrasensory, and it potentially OHKOs Sock or 2-hit KOs Braviary. And I mean, maybe it would have worked. So I guess I still technically had a play at this point in the game, and that was probably the bigger misplay. I ended up kind of salvaging it here and going for a read on the Shadow Ball, because I just kind of need to get Zoroark back in so I can actually do Night Daze damage. Make another read as he goes for Psychic. But unfortunately, those 2 turns means that he got back 12% of Leftovers recovery, and as you can see, I did 86%, leaving him 8%. Meaning that those 2 turns were just enough for him to recover out of range. He goes for Flash Cannon, Zoroark drops, and I'm basically forced to hope that he switches here for no reason and kind of chokes. I go for the sub just in case, because if he did choke, I could actually just potentially sweep with return, depending on how the game goes. Obviously, he just goes for the right play. I'm going to get a kill with return because I just want to boost that differential at this point. But he's obviously Scarfed and going to take me out here. So good battle, Flooka. This recording still ended up a little bit longer than I meant for it to, even though I was trying to go fast. But we've had good battles this season, and unfortunately we are 0-4 against the Hamilton Rai-Cats and AC Melantern. Which kind of sucks because I feel like we entered all 4 of those games with them looking pretty winnable and just kind of didn't really seal it out. I'm a little bit less mad about this game than the other games because it, first of all, was very good prep on Flooka's part. He completely out-prepped me with the Alolan Z, Nature's Madness, which kind of ended up screwing over Sylveon and kind of giving one of my main win conditions away, because I was kind of hoping to be able to set up Calm Minds and basically just pass into Nidoking and do a lot of damage. But that's okay, maybe next time. So before I go this week, I guess I forgot there's actually one more thing I need to do. I'm making a free agency move as well, effective as of week 11. I am dropping Delmise for Cofagrigus, and if you're wondering, this does actually mean that I'm leaving this season with a couple of points like on the board. Delmise is a tier 3 and Cofagrigus is a tier 4. But I do have reasonings for this. And first off, Delmise wasn't really working out as well as I thought it would. I expected to be able to use it as like a premier rapid spin blocker. I expected to be able to kind of just trap a ton of stuff with anchor shot, and honestly, like, the weeks I brought it, it was okay, but it never really seemed to like stand out. I'm not sure if that's just because I already had a team with like pretty high base attack, and obviously its base attack is its best stat, so it kind of rendered it a little redundant on my team. But I decided that Cofagrigus was dropped by the Rai-Cats, so I better pick it up before someone else picks up one of the best Loppin encounters, first of all. I personally have experience with Cofagrigus. I have a Showdown live from a couple of weeks ago, actually, where I brought it on a Sylveon team. So I actually have a little bit of experience of it with Sylveon too, which is kind of interesting. I know that it's more of a traditional ghost, I guess, than Delmise is. Delmise is missing a lot of the utility that a lot of ghost types have, like Will-O-Wisp, like Hex, like Destiny Bond, like Memento, just offhand. It also gives me another Trick Room setter, which is kind of important because now I have both Cresselia and Cofagrigus. It opens up an ability for me to actually run a pretty threatening Trick Room team, to be honest. I'm not sure if that's going to be featured on the channel in the next couple of weeks or not, but we'll see. But yeah, just kind of briefly going over, I'm pretty comfortable with Cofagrigus. It was actually one of the first shinies that I hunted for in Gen 6. I didn't really do a lot of shiny hunting or whatever, but I just really like this thing shiny. Silver and purple is cool. But yeah, I think that's about it for this week. I don't really have enough time to talk about much else. But next week we are taking on the Queensland Kamalas, coached by TK. It should be a very interesting battle. She's still fighting very, very hard for a playoff spot. We actually sealed up our playoff spot this week by losing, interestingly enough. Because basically it just guaranteed that both me and Flooka have a record and differential that the other teams can't catch right now. So we're basically in the playoffs, unfortunately, going to either be battling the Hamilton Rai-Cats, AC Lantern, or Minnesota Volcarona. The Volcarona we haven't battled this season, but they're 9-1, I think, and like have by far the best differential in the league. So not really looking forward to that either. But playoffs are going to be hype. The next couple of weeks are probably going to be a little bit more chill just because I've been super swamped at work. So I'm probably not going to be able to upload quite as much to the channel, but just stick with me, I guess. And yeah, I will see you guys next week for the Queensland Kamalas battle. Bye.